enjoying the mystery, the analytical stretch. You were playing my game.
You son of a bitch!
The Man from Earth has no effects, no action, one house, and it became a sci-fi legend. But did you know its biggest twist was banned from television in 1969? Or that this film was made famous by pirates, and its producer thanked them? Here are 14 facts you probably didn't know, and number 1 will surprise you the most. 14. The original version was banned from television. Jesus and all, here's the buried origin story. Nearly 40 years before this film, Jerome Bixby already tried to tell it on Star Trek. His 1969 episode, Requiem for Methuselah, features Flint, an immortal who has lived under many identities across history. But that aired version was the defanged one. In Bixby's earlier drafts, Flint was an 8,000-year-old former caveman whose past identities went much, much further, including Moses and Jesus Christ himself. The network shut it down, claiming the immortal had been Christ was considered far too provocative for 1960s television. Flint was trimmed to a safer 6,000-year-old who had merely been secular geniuses like Da Vinci and Brahms. Bixby never let the idea go. The Man from Earth is that censored story finally told at full strength. John Oldman is the caveman Flint couldn't be, and the film walks straight into the revelation television forbade, that John's teachings, learned from the Buddha, were remembered by history as the story of Christ. The most controversial scene in this movie isn't just a twist. It's a 38-year-old piece of banned science fiction, resurrected exactly as its author originally intended. 13. The script took 40 years and was finished from a deathbed. Jerome Bixby conceived this story in the early 1960s and carried it unfinished through almost his entire career. He finally completed it in April 1998, on his deathbed, dictating the last pages of the screenplay to his son, screenwriter Emerson Bixby, as he was dying. Sit with the irony the producer himself pointed out. A dying man spent his final days writing about a man who cannot die. And the devotion didn't end there. After his father's death, Emerson spent years championing the script, and director Richard Schenkman, who'd long told colleagues it was an amazing piece of writing, finally optioned it in 2005. The film reached screens in 2007, nearly a decade after its author's death, and over 40 years after its conception. When you watch the finished movie, Bixby's name appears above the title before any actor. His son made sure the last thing his father ever wrote was the first thing you see. 12. $200,000, 8 days, and consumer camcorders. Let's talk numbers because they're absurd. The Man from Earth was made for roughly $200,000. Less than the catering budget on a studio blockbuster. It was shot in just 8 days after a single week of rehearsals at one ranch house in Agua Dulce, California. The entire film was captured on 2 Panasonic DVX-100S, prosumer camcorders, the kind of camera a wedding videographer might carry, not a feature film crew. And here's the detail that says everything about the script's confidence. There are no deleted scenes. None. What Bixby wrote is what was shot, and what was shot is what you see. No coverage insurance, no alternate cuts, no studio note surgery. 8 days, one house, 2 camcorders, and a stack of pages a dying man dictated to his son. That's the entire production. It might be the purest transfer of script to screen in modern sci-fi. 11. The writer invented things you already love. You just don't know his name. Jerome Bixby might be the most influential science fiction writer casual audiences have never heard of. He wrote Mirror, Mirror, the Star Trek episode that invented the mirror universe, the evil goatee parallel dimension concept that pop culture has been borrowing for 60 years. He wrote the 1953 short story It's a Good Life, which became one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes ever made. The terrifying child who wishes people into the cornfield, later parodied by The Simpsons. He also conceived and co-wrote fantastic voyage, the shrunken submarine inside a human body classic that Isaac Asimov novelized. So when you watch The Man from Earth, you're not watching a lucky first-timer. You're watching the final move of a writer whose ideas quietly colonized the entire genre. One last premise from the man who gave sci-fi some of its most copied furniture, saved for the very end of his life. 10. The cast is secretly a Star Trek reunion. Look closely at John's living room because it's full of Starfleet. John Billingsley, the skeptical biologist Harry, played Dr. Phlox for the entire run of Star Trek Enterprise. Tony Todd, who plays Dan, was Worf's brother Kern in The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Richard Reel guest starred across multiple Trek series. Even David Lee Smith, John Oldman himself, appeared in an episode of Voyager. For a film written by a legendary Star Trek writer, the casting is practically a family gathering. The movie knows it, too. Near the end, an emotionally exhausted Dan announces he's going home to watch some Star Trek, a wink at the audience from inside Bixby's own universe. And when the sequel arrived in 2017, the tradition continued. Michael Dorn, Worf himself, joined the cast. The most Star Trek movie ever made contains no spaceships whatsoever. 9. The idea has a hidden family tree. The Immortal Among Us premise didn't appear from nowhere, and tracing its lineage is half the fun. Besides Bixby's own censored Star Trek attempt, critics have pointed to the classic Twilight Zone episode Long Live Walter Jameson, about an immortal university professor of history, the exact profession John Oldman hides behind. Reviewers have also speculated that Bixby may have drawn on Vandal Savage, the DC Comics villain who has been immortal since he was a caveman and claims famous historical identities. Though that connection remains educated guesswork rather than confirmed fact. What's not guesswork is what Bixby did differently. Most immortal stories are about boredom, doomed love, or sword fights across the centuries. Bixby asked a quieter, harder question. If a caveman were still alive, what would he actually remember? And would we believe a single word? The family tree is long, but this branch grew something new. 8. The theatrical release was 2 tiny towns. Here's a fact that makes the film's later fame even more surreal. After screening at the San Diego Comic-Con Film Festival in July 2007, The Man from Earth premiered theatrically in exactly 2 places: Hemet, California, and Pittman, New Jersey. Not New York and LA. Not a platform release across art houses. 2 small towns most Americans couldn't find on a map. One of them chosen because producer Eric Wilkinson was a New Jersey local. That was the entire theatrical footprint of a film now ranked among the best-loved science fiction of its decade. No marketing budget, no distribution muscle, no premiere searchlights. By every rule of the movie business, this film should have vanished without a trace in November 2007. And it very nearly did, until it was stolen. Which brings us to the strangest success story in modern film. Quick intermission at the fireplace. If you're enjoying this one, hit like and subscribe, because stories like this are exactly what this channel digs for. Now, the leak that accidentally saved a masterpiece. 7. Pirates made it famous. An 11,000% explosion. Weeks before the DVD release, somebody ripped one of the promotional screener discs and uploaded the film to BitTorrent. Then RLSLOG, at the time one of the most read piracy blogs on the internet, posted a glowing review, and its massive audience went and downloaded a movie no one had ever heard of. What happened next has become industry legend. In roughly a week, the film's IMDb Movie Meter ranking rocketed from number 11,235 to number 6, a jump the director himself put at 11,000%. Traffic to the film's website surged over 3,000%. Hundreds of glowing user reviews poured in, and at one point, the film sat ranked among the highest-rated science fiction films on the entire site. A movie with next to no advertising budget, released theatrically in 2 small towns, became a global phenomenon in days, through completely unauthorized distribution. The film about a man history overlooked was saved from being overlooked by history's most unlikely audience, file sharers. 6. The producer publicly thanked the pirates. Now the part Hollywood couldn't believe. Instead of lawyers and takedown notices, producer Eric Wilkinson wrote an open letter to the Piracy blog itself. He thanked file sharers directly. The movie had next to nothing going for it, he explained, until somebody ripped one of the DVD screeners and put the movie online for all to download. Awareness was through the roof, and for that he said, "Thank you." He asked only that people who enjoyed the film consider buying the DVD or donating. And then he added the line that made headlines. In the future, he wrote, "When I make my next picture, I just may upload the movie on the net myself." Remember, this was 2007, the peak of the industry's war on file sharing, when studios treated BitTorrent like a plague. A producer hugging the pirates wasn't just unusual. It was, at the time, close to unprecedented. And it made The Man from Earth a case study people still argue about today. 5. They kept the promise, then lived to regret it. That throwaway line about uploading the next movie himself. They actually did it. When the sequel, The Man from Earth, Holocene, arrived, the creators uploaded it to the Pirate Bay themselves in January 2018, deliberately, legally, with a donation appeal attached, reasoning that it would be pirated anyway, so they might as well control the version being shared. The experiment turned sour. Director Richard Shankman later described discovering a Russian operation that took his freely shared film, stripped out the donation message, replaced it with advertising, and monetized it, taking full advantage of filmmakers who were literally giving their work away. Within a year, the man whose team once thanked pirates was publicly calling piracy an existential threat to independent film. The Man from Earth's story is the entire internet-era piracy debate compressed into one franchise: The Miracle, The Honeymoon, and The Hangover, all starring the same movie. 4. The film became a stage play, completing a full-circle Watch the Man from Earth, and you can feel it. One room, real time, a closed circle of characters, everything carried by dialogue. It plays like theater. In 2012, director Richard Shankman made that literal adapting the screenplay into an actual stage play, which went on to be performed to positive reviews and staged internationally, including productions in Greece and regional theaters across America. There's something quietly perfect about that journey. A script deemed unfilmable sounding by conventional Hollywood logic. No spectacle, no locations, just talk. Proved so sturdy that it works with no camera at all. Most movies lose something on a stage. This one simply went home. Bixby wrote a campfire story about the oldest man alive, and now, somewhere in the world, actors keep gathering in a fake living room to tell it again. The way stories were told for the 14,000 years John claims to remember. 3. The awards run nobody saw coming. For a $200,000 film shot on camcorders, the trophy shelf is ridiculous. At the 2007 Rhode Island International Film Festival, it won first place for Best Feature and the grand prize for Best Screenplay. A posthumous victory lap for Jerome Bixby. Then it swept across the international festival circuit. Best Film and the Audience Choice Award at Montevideo's Fantastic Film Festival in Uruguay. Best Director at Fantaspoa in Brazil. Screenplay Awards in Chile and Rio. Best Sci-Fi Screenplay in Phoenix. It even landed a Saturn Award nomination for its DVD release. Notice the pattern in those wins. Screenplay, screenplay, screenplay. Around the world, in multiple languages, juries and audiences kept giving the same verdict. The writing was the special effect. A dead man was outwriting entire industries from beyond the grave, and film festivals on 3 continents lined up to say so. 2. The numbers rewrote the definition of a hit. Here's the scoreboard for a film that failed theatrically. A perfect 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes. An IMDb rating built from hundreds of thousands of votes, at one point ranking it among the top science fiction films on the entire database. Reported at the time as high as the 14th best sci-fi film ever. On Netflix, it accumulated over 650,000 ratings, which reportedly translated to well over 1 million views. All of this for a movie whose entire theatrical run consisted of 2 small-town screens. By box office math, The Man from Earth barely existed. By every metric of how many humans actually watched it, loved it, and pressed it into friends' hands, it outperformed films that cost 500 times more. It became the proof case for a new kind of hit. The movie that succeeds everywhere except the place success used to be measured. 1. The $200,000 experiment that proved ideas are the cheapest special effects. Step back and look at what this film actually demonstrated. In an era of $100 million spectacle, a dying man's dialogue-only script, 1 house, 8 days, camcorders, 0 effects shots, became one of the most beloved science fiction films of its generation. It spawned a sequel, a stage play performed around the world, and one of the most cited case studies in the entire internet distribution debate. Its production model has been pointed to ever since as proof that science fiction lives or dies on ideas, not budgets. That a single impossible claim, interrogated honestly for 90 minutes, can outgrip an armada of CGI. And there's one last poetic detail. Jerome Bixby spent his career writing about immortality, a censored Star Trek immortal, an eternal caveman, and never lived to see this film exist. Yet here we are, decades after his death, still discussing his last words, still passing his story from person to person, like the world's slowest campfire. The man wrote about a professor who outlives everything. Then his script did exactly that. Maybe that's the real trick of The Man from Earth. It never proves John's story. No scars, no artifacts, no flashbacks. All it offers is a man talking and the unbearable question underneath. If the impossible sat across from you, calm and kind and unprovable, would you recognize it? Every character in that room chooses between evidence and faith, comfort and wonder. So does everyone watching. 14,000 years of history, and the film's deepest subject is the 60 seconds after someone tells you a truth you can't verify, and you decide who they are. Those were 14 facts most fans have never heard about The Man from Earth. Which one got you, the banned Jesus twist from 1969, or the producer thanking his own pirates? Confess in the comments. If this earned it, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still hasn't seen it, legally, preferably. Until next time, keep moving every 10 years.